All right, so Morocco, Portugal, Spain, all vying for that 2030 World Cup, huh?
Quite the ambitious bid, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And we actually dug through their whole proposal.
All 141 pages.
Every single one. It's not just about hosting some games.
It's a whole, I don't know, statement.
Right. Like they want to redefine what a World Cup can be.
And they're really pushing this idea of it being a transformative societal project.
Yeah, we're going to unpack that.
Definitely.
But first, can we appreciate this slogan?
What? Yalla vamos.
I kind of love it. It's catchy, right?
It's smart. You've got the Moroccan Arabic in there, the yalla, like that let's go energy.
And then, of course, the vamos, classic football spirit.
Exactly. So right away, it's telling you this isn't just one nation's thing. It's a team effort.
3 nations, 2 continents.
Which is, logistically, to say the least.
Uh,
We haven't seen a tricontinental World Cup before, have we?
I mean, even those 2 nation ones have had their issues.
Hiccups galore.
Mm.
We're talking about coordinating everything, not just, the matches themselves. Infrastructure, cultural differences.
Right, because things work differently in different places.
Precisely. And they actually call that out in the bid, the historical weight of this kind of partnership. Like this has never been done before, so there's no blueprint for them to follow.
Has there ever been a successful, like truly unified multi-nation bid for any major sporting event?
There have been a few instances where collaborations have worked out, but nothing on this scale. The closest comparison might be the 2002 World Cup, split between South Korea and Japan. And even that had its share of logistical headaches and cultural clashes.
So this is a whole other level.
Entirely. But hey, maybe that's what makes it exciting, right?
Speaking of exciting, the stadiums, it's like a football fan's dream list.
It's a good mix. You got your legendary venues steeped in history.
And then the brand new state-of-the-art ones.
Exactly. They're talking about 20 stadiums in total, from the iconic Camp Nou in Barcelona to the newly constructed Grand Stade Hassan II in Casablanca.
Oh, Camp Nou, just the name gives me chills. Have they said which stadium will host the final?
They haven't announced a specific venue for that yet. But yeah, can you imagine the roar of the crowd at Camp Nou for the final? The electricity.
Goosebumps just thinking about it.
It's going to be amazing no matter where they have it.
Okay, but what about the new stadiums? Are they going for flashy and modern, or are they trying to incorporate some local character?
It's a blend, actually. They're incorporating cutting-edge technology, of course, but they're also trying to reflect the unique character of each location.
Give me an example. What are they doing?
Take the Grand Stade Hassan II in Casablanca, for instance. It's a technological marvel, retractable roof, all the bells and whistles. But they also designed it to reflect traditional Moroccan architecture. That attention to detail, the way they're weaving the old and new together, is really interesting.
Okay, I like that. It's not just about building for the tournament. It's about creating something that feels authentically rooted in the host countries.
Right. It's about creating something that will last. And it's not just about aesthetics either. They're also emphasizing sustainability. They're aiming for high-level certifications like LE Gold for many of the stadiums.
Okay, for those of us who aren't architects or, environmental engineers, what does LE Gold even mean? Break it down.
Basically, it's a globally recognized sustainability rating system.
Okay.
And LE Gold means they're incorporating things like energy-efficient designs, using recycled materials, minimizing their environmental impact during construction.
So like trying to reduce the carbon footprint of this massive event, which has got to be a challenge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
But they're taking it seriously, at least on paper, talking about using renewable energy sources, promoting public transportation, and even implementing circular economy practices. That means reusing and recycling as much as possible.
Wow. It's ambitious, but I have to say, I'm impressed by their commitment to sustainability. It's not just about putting on a show, it's about being responsible.
It's about thinking long-term, beyond the tournament itself, and considering the impact on the planet.
And that's where their whole legacy argument comes into play, right? This isn't just about building stadiums and infrastructure. It's about creating something that benefits these nations long after the final whistle blows.
It's a big part of their pitch, yeah. They're talking about social programs, investments in education and healthcare, using the World Cup as a catalyst for innovation.
It's a lot to promise. And I can't help but think about, past World Cups. Those white elephant stadiums, the debt some countries are left with.
You're right to be cautious. It's not always sunshine and roses. There have been mega events that overpromised and underdelivered when it came to that long-term impact. But there have been some success stories, too. Look at the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. That led to some major infrastructure improvements, a real boost in tourism.
Okay, so it's not impossible, but how do they plan to actually measure the success of all this? What metrics are they using?
They've actually got a pretty detailed plan for that. They're talking about tracking things like job creation, especially for young people, women, improvements to public transport, how many communities actually benefit from the new infrastructure.
So at least they're trying to be transparent, accountable for what they're promising.
Yeah, it seems that way.
But let's talk about the fan experience for a second. That's a big part of what makes the World Cup so special, right?
Absolutely. The atmosphere is electric.
They mentioned these FIFA fan festival sites. Have you heard about these?
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Imagine this. You're in Lisbon, the sun's setting over the Tagus River. You're surrounded by fans from all over the world at Parque Tejo. They're proposing that as one of the FanFest locations. Music, food, giant screens showing the matches.
Oh man, I can practically taste the grilled sardines already. You know, I always thought those fan fests were just for people who couldn't get tickets to the actual games.
I used to think that too. But honestly, they've become an event in themselves. It's a whole different way to experience the World Cup.
And they've chosen some really amazing locations. The bid book mentioned Casablanca's Corniche Sindibad, that beautiful waterfront promenade.
Oh wow, yeah. Soaking up the Moroccan sun, the excitement in the air.
It's about capturing that energy, right? That sense of global community you only get at the World Cup.
Ex-
But of course, it's not all fun and games. The bid book does get into some of the challenges. And there are some big ones.
There are. Sustainability is a major concern.
Yeah, how are they planning to deal with the environmental impact of like millions of fans flying in from all over the world? That's a lot of carbon emissions.
Yeah, it's a huge question mark. They talk about carbon offsetting, encouraging fans to use public transport, and of course they emphasize all the sustainability features they're building into the infrastructure. But it's a massive undertaking.
Right. Some people would say it's just not possible to make an event this big, truly environmentally friendly.
It's a valid point. And then there's the issue of human rights, which has been,
A major issue with past World Cups.
to say the least.
So what are they saying about that?
They actually spend a lot of time on it in the bid book, which is a good sign. They talk about fair labor practices, protecting migrant workers, preventing discrimination.
But those are just words. How do we know they'll actually follow through?
That's the million-dollar question, right? They talk about independent monitoring committees, working with human rights groups, having clear systems for reporting any abuses.
It sounds promising. I'm reserving judgment until I see concrete action. It's one thing to talk the talk. It's another to actually walk the walk. It's a real balancing act, isn't it? All the excitement of the tournament, but then the responsibility they have to make sure it's done right. Environment, human rights.
And a lot to juggle.
It is. But before we get too deep into all that, can we talk logistics for a sec? 3 different countries, millions of fans. Getting around has got to be a thing.
Oh, they've definitely thought about that. Their transportation plan is actually really detailed. They're banking a lot on that high-speed rail network that connects a lot of Spain and Morocco already.
Okay, so zipping between matches on a bullet train. I like it.
And they're even talking about extending Morocco's Al Barak line down to Marrakesh, which is ambitious.
That's a whole project in itself.
Yeah.
But what about like those of us who want a more, scenic route? Are there ferries that go between Morocco and Spain?
Funny you should ask. They actually highlight the ferry routes as part of their whole sustainable travel thing, encouraging fans to choose those slower, greener options.
All right, count me in. But let's say I'm going from, I don't know, Seville to another city in Spain for a match. What's the public transport situation like?
They're putting a lot of resources into that too, expanding metro lines, adding more buses and trams in all the host cities. They're even talking about things like dedicated bus lanes, intelligent traffic management systems.
Wait, intelligent traffic during a World Cup? That almost sounds too good to be true.
Well, we'll see how it works in practice.
Right. Okay, so we can get around, but what about just feeling safe? These mega events, there's always that worry.
Yeah, security is a big one. They've got a whole section in the bid book outlining their plan, and it sounds pretty intense. Multi-layered approach, collaboration between the 3 countries, FIFA, even private security companies.
That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. How do they keep it all straight?
They're setting up a central command center so everyone's got access to the same real-time information. They're also investing heavily in surveillance technology, cybersecurity, all that.
Sounds like they're taking it seriously, at least.
It seems that way.
But hold on, with so many people coming from everywhere, what about health concerns? That's got to be on their radar.
Oh, for sure. They've got a whole health management strategy outlined too. Dedicated medical facilities, increased capacity at hospitals, training for healthcare workers to deal with any potential outbreaks.
It's kind of reassuring they've thought about all that.
Okay.
But let's come back to the big one, human rights. We've talked about what they're promising, but how do we make sure this time is different? How do we hold their feet to the fire, so to speak?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. And it's bigger than just this one World Cup. It's about demanding better from these huge events. A lot of human rights groups are already calling for stricter oversight, more enforceable protections for workers.
Well, it's good they're on top of it. Public pressure can make a difference, but at the end of the day, it's on Morocco, Portugal, Spain to prove they can host a World Cup that's not just amazing to watch, but one that's ethical, responsible.
A World Cup that sets a new standard? Maybe. One that leaves behind a real positive legacy. Social change, environmental protection, respect for human rights.
Now, that's a goal worth fighting for. And, whether they completely nail it or stumble along the way, this bid's already got people talking about the future of the World Cup, what it means to host, the responsibility that comes with it.
Bigger than just football.
Exactly. And on that note, I think we've got to wrap up this deep dive, but we want to hear from you. Keep digging into this bid. Keep those questions coming. The 2030 World Cup's still a way off, but the conversation's just getting started.
That's what we're here for.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring